to the thefogvlog.
Hey, what's up you guys, and welcome to Mixer Review. If you've clicked on this, you know we're going to be talking about CokeCan or Matthew Kocanda today. Thank you so much for joining us. You know, everybody here in chat, thank you very much. It's always good to have you here. I've really missed Mixer Review. You know, there's been a couple of challenges, of course, in my family, and also, you know, just with power in general. This specific recording was done in 3 parts, and I stitched them together with a little bit of fancy footwork, aka video editing at the back. So if anything does seem a little bit off, just consider that we did this in 3 parts. But we did a couple of recipes of Matthew, and I'm going to kick off. Matthew, if you are here, welcome in the chat. It's nice to have you guys here. Alright, so let me kick off with the first one that I mixed up, which is the nebula or nebula. Let's look at the description for this. About a week ago, I came across a thread on DIY subreddit where a user was asking if there were any good remixes of one of my very first DIY recipes, Nebula. I realized that I hadn't worked on, vaped, or even thought about that recipe in probably over a year, so I went ahead and mixed up a bottle of my final iteration of it. While it wasn't necessarily bad, I felt that though it had a lot of room for improvement. So here it is, the reimagination or reimaging of the first mixes I had even put together. What started out as a clone attempt of Habu Vapor's Stargazer, I haven't vaped that before, which is a strawberry pineapple mix with a cold XL, has evolved into something that I'm quite happy with. Alright, so let's look at the ingredients here. So it's 1.25% FA Armenia, 0.75% Anywhere a Cactus, 1.25% TPA Dragon Fruit, 1% TPA Pineapple, 1.75% FA Red Touch, 3% Cap Sweet Strawberry, and then 1% WS23 just to cool things off. Okay, so you know, here's my thoughts on this mix. Okay, of course, if you go to this recipe, there's an explanation of each of the flavors and why he chose that specific flavor in this mix. But here's my opinion on this mix. So you know, the first thing that I tasted was the cactus in here. Okay, so it's at 0.75%, so it's very present. I mean, if you want the cactus to be sort of, you know, just something in the back that gives the whole recipe a little bit of juiciness to it, then a 0.75% is going to be a little bit too much. But you know, what Matthew says about Anywhere a Cactus and FA Polar Blast, the cactus in here to add some more juicy wetness to the recipe. Subtle aloe notes aren't really noticeable at lower percentages, but every so often I pick up just the slightest little hint of it on the back end. I'm tempted to push this higher into the mix to accentuate that the aloe note just a bit, and I think he's done that. I think, you know, maybe the original iteration of this was a little bit lower, maybe at 0.5, and then, you know, because he likes that cactus so much, he wanted it a little bit more prominent in the mix. That one specifically, the Anywhere a Cactus, sits very high in the mix. You know, and there's a couple of others that I also feel, you know, read in that top layer of the vape, which is FA Armenia. That also reads in the top. TFA Pineapple also reading at the top, and FA Red Touch Strawberry. I really like the strawberry and the FA Armenia combination in this recipe. I think it's delicious. The only thing, I think this recipe potentially will work very well in like a mouth to lung vape where, you know, you just want like a fruit combo and you don't really care too much about you know, layers in a recipe. You just want, you know, you just want a good fruit medley, and that's what this recipe will give you. All right, but you know, in terms of vaping this in a 22 ATI, flavor add to, you're going to get a lot of fruits right at the top. And you know, I think yeah, this recipe potentially is a little bit more, you know, suitable for a mouth to lung or like a pod style device. But yeah, I had fun with this one. You know, will I mix it up again? Yeah, I probably will be mixing up that combination of FA Red Touch and FA Armenia. I think it's a good combination. Of course, with a TFA Dragon Fruit in there as well, to just merge those two and let it transcend into something, you know, like some kind of fusion fruit. I like that. I really do like that. So for this recipe, I'm going to give CokeCan, Matthew Kocanda, I'm just going to give him a straight up first bump there. You know, thank you very much. Very cool little mix. You know, learned a little something out of this. Then the next recipe, I don't know how to say this name, and if you read the description here, since I hate the state that Reddit is in, I figured I would post something to piss everyone off. So it ends with, the mix ends with PEO, okay? And this is not the PEO pod version. It is the, you know, the direct lung version. Anyway, he says here, I'm not going to do a super in-depth breakdown of this because it's pretty obvious how it works, but I'll do a proper flavor note documentation on Reddit here in a little bit. This is just what it seems to be, a slightly tart, bright strawberry recipe. I was initially going for a candied strawberry soda profile, but it wasn't working, so I went with a more tart strawberry that worked nicely. I'll post both of these because I did a version that works really nicely in pod devices as well. Okay, so I'm not talking about the pod device recipe, I'm talking about this one. So let's dive into what he used here for the ingredients, which is 1.5% VT fizzy sherbet, 2.75% FA Red Touch strawberry, 1% FLV sour apple, 2.25% sweet strawberry. And I want to agree with Matthew here. Excuse me, have I been saying Matthew Kocanda? It's actually Matthew Kocanda. Excuse me if I've been doing that incorrectly. Excuse me, CokeCan. Anyway, but what this is for me, of course, it is a strawberry forward recipe. That orange that comes, or that citrusy note that comes with the fizzy sherbet, really sells that sherbet profile for me. However, this is a candy, you know, so it almost tastes like you know, sherbet that's been squashed into like a candy, you know, that's got a little bit of tartness to it that FLV sour apple brings to the party, but of course the whole thing is more strawberry, and it's got a beautiful round candied finish. And I don't say that often, you know, for many recipes. This whole thing it might seem simple, but the thing, you know, the recipe hangs very well together. It's got depth to it, it's got sweetness to it. And I can pick out every single element of it. I can pick out the fizzy, you know, the sherbet vibe to this recipe, where the strawberries are sitting. I can also tell what the sour apple is bringing to the party as well. So this recipe, everything hangs very well together for me. This is 100% in my wheelhouse. You know, I've been looking through a lot of CokeCan's recipes, and I do feel that there's a lot of similarities between the stuff that he's creating and the stuff that I like. So this was 100% in my wheelhouse. He smashed it out of the park here. So this is 100% a full-on banger, dude. Straight up banger. Well done. Well done. I'm not going to show you my banger, but it will be on the screen here below. So thank you very much for this one. I'll definitely be mixing this up, and I'll also check this one out for my pod devices as well. Cheers, man. Let's move on to the next recipes from CokeCan.
Right, from my two Matthew Kocanda recipes, I chose two that use his FA pair, TFA pair favoured pair combo. One uses it as a supporting note, the other one uses it as a main note. let's start with the one that uses it as a supporting note, and that is Shindo Best Damn Shindo Snacks. This recipe is derived from Shindo's D-Cream. It's a very simple recipe of TFA vanilla bean ice cream and FA Fuji apple. Matthew decided to take this idea of this recipe and expand on it a bit, add some more flavors, increase the complexity a bit. So let's start with the recipe first. The top note is 2.5% FA Fuji. He then has a pear supporting note of 2% FA pear with 0.75% of TFA pear. For his cream base, he uses 2.25% TFA vanilla bean ice cream, supplemented with 0.3% Hanson French vanilla ice cream. And then to tie everything together, he has 2.5% of TFA marshmallow. So it's basically D-Cream with a supporting pear note for the apple, and with marshmallow added, and also with the cream base of Hanson French vanilla ice cream complementing the TFA vanilla bean ice cream. Straight away, what strikes me about this recipe is how well blended it is. The apple and the pear notes blend together perfectly. The pear is exactly where it should be. It doesn't compete with the apple note, but it does support it. It adds juiciness, it adds creaminess, it adds a little bit of sweetness, but it still allows that fairly sharp, almost candy FA Fuji apple note to shine through as the main note of the juice. Underneath that, we have again a very well blended cream base of vanilla bean ice cream and Hanson French vanilla ice cream. And once again, the fruit top note, the Fuji and the two pears, blend and are blended beautifully into that cream base. So it's almost like a cascade mix where we start off with that apple front and center. That's got the pear supporting it, and then underneath that we've got the cream supporting that. And there's a sort of seamless transition from the apple right through to the cream base. Everything is in the right ratio. Everything blends together very, very well. The mouthfeel is good. The flavors are discernible on their own. The cream, the pear, and the apple are all discernible on their own, but they blend together beautifully into one sort of holistic taste sensation. I am getting a little bit of the marshmallow, more as a textural element than as a taste element, but there is, on the occasional drag, there's a little bit of that marshmallow taste coming through. But mostly what I'm getting it as is as almost a powdered sugar type of texturizing feel that adds to the cream. So it's mostly a textural accent more than a taste accent. In terms of the mix overall, is it a good thing or a bad thing that everything blends together so well? You know, do you want that single taste, or do you want different layers that you can taste? Well, that's going to depend on your palate. I think it's pulled off very, very well here. The one problem that I have is that the whole thing feels a little bit subtle and downplayed to me. Now, normally I prefer my flavors to be on the subtle side rather than this very prominent candy apple popping and bursting in your face. I'd rather have a more subtle apple. So at least it's erring on the right side for me. But for my palate, the whole thing is just a little bit too subtle. It just seems a tad muted, and I think that is quite possibly as a result of this TFA marshmallow, which is quite high at 2.5%. I think the maltol in the marshmallow can drag things down a bit, not necessarily muting so much, but just taking the edge off those fruits and just pulling, you know, the fruits back into that cream base, that nothing really stands out too much. I find the whole mix very subtle, very soft, which is not a bad thing. It's not an unpleasant mix at all. And the one benefit of it is that I can vape it for a long, long time. It doesn't tire my palate out. The flavor isn't too upfront and in your face. So that's a positive. But just for my palate, I prefer that, particularly that apple top note, just to punch a little bit harder. Now, you know, short of redoing the whole blending and sort of losing that very subtle mixing and layering effect, that sort of seamless transition between the all three, I don't think that would be viable. What I will do when I mix this again, and I will mix it again, is to maybe just drop that marshmallow down to about 1% or somewhere around there, and just see if that helps to lift the sort of flavor prominence of the whole thing slightly, just to make it a little bit more prominent in flavor. So overall, a very well blended and very well balanced mix, but something that is a little bit too soft for me. I'd prefer to just punch a little bit harder. But for the skill and the craft of the way that the different layers are blended together, and that very fine and delicate balance between them, I'll definitely give this a fist bump. So well done for that, Matthew. Alright, for the second of my Matthew Kocanda pear-centric recipes, I chose what is quite possibly his signature recipe, which is drunken pears. I've always enjoyed this one, so this time I mixed up the updated one. That's the one with the numbers in the name. It's the Drunk 3NPE4RS. That's the updated one that he's tweaked quite a bit from the original. Let's just go through the recipe and you'll see it's quite complex. For his pear top note, he uses 3.25% FA pear with 0.5% TFA pear. He then has some sort of darker bakery elements. There's 1.5% TFA brown sugar, there's 1.5% cap cinnamon Danish swirl, and 1% TFA toasted marshmallow. He's also got 0.5% of FA meringue in there and 1.25% TFA vanilla bean ice cream. And then the alcohol in the drunken pears is obviously the 2.5% TFA Kentucky bourbon. And then also, just to accent and complement that TFA vanilla bean ice cream, he's got 0.25% of Hanson French vanilla ice cream. So as with the previous recipe, this one features both the FA pear and TFA pear combo, as well as the TFA vanilla bean ice cream and Hanson French vanilla ice cream combo. So two common elements there. The difference is that in this one, the pear is the top note, whereas in the Best Damn Shindo Snacks, it was used as a supporting note for the FA Fuji apple. As I said, I've always liked this recipe. It's always been my rotation. I like the original, and having now mixed up the updated one, I have to say that I like this one even more. I think the tweaks that he's done have improved it even further. This is now a really delicious and well textured and well blended mix. One of the problems that we have with pear is that even though it's a great support flavor, it's juicy, it's soft, it's creamy, it adds sweetness, it is fairly bland on its own, and that's in real life, not just in vaping. And I think this is the reason why you'll find not many people eating pears on their own. Chunks of pear are great in a fruit salad, but pears on their own not so great. And then also in the beverage sector, you'll find people having, you know, orange juice, grape juice, apple juice, etc., but not that often pear juice on its own. It's just not that exciting a fruit solo. So it needs something just to spike it up a bit, give it more interest, give it more depth. And what Matthew has done here is to add just a little bit of bite and some warmth from that Kentucky bourbon, and then also add some darker bakery elements. The cinnamon Danish swirl adds a little bit of cinnamon, the brown sugar adds that darker sweetening, the toasted marshmallow adds a little bit of darkness in that marshmallow. So you're getting almost a bakery sort of darkness with a fruity pear top note that's also spiked up a little bit with that bourbon note, and then just with a vanilla bean ice cream and French vanilla ice cream backing, that cream backing, just to smooth everything out and give it some texture and mouthfeel. This is a very appealing mix for me. The sweetness is bang on. The additions to the flavor are doing exactly what they should be doing. That Kentucky bourbon registers, but without fighting with the pear. The pear is still there. It's not a very prominent top note, but you wouldn't expect pear to be it. As I said, it's quite bland, but it does still register, backed up by that alcohol, backed up by that bakery sweetness. Everything, as you would expect with Matthew Kocanda, is very well layered, very well balanced, and you can just see that from his percentages: 3.25%, 0.25%, 1.25%. These are, he doesn't work in half percent or whole percent ratios. He gets that balance very finely to where he needs it to be. I find this much more layered than the Shindo snacks, where the Shindo snacks sort of, just sits together as one holistic flavor. This has its different elements that come through: the alcohol on the one side, that sort of dark bakery sweetness on the other side, the pear in the middle, the cream sort of backing everything up. So there's different levels happening here. It's a complex mix. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 flavors. So you would expect it to be quite complex. But for me, what it succeeds in doing is moving pear from an appealing but fairly bland flavor to a truly sumptuous flavor. And what I like about this as well, it's a grown-up pear flavor. It's not a candy. It's not an excessively bright, artificial, sweetened, Malaysian type fruit. It's actually a grown-up, subtle, layered, adult, alcohol-enhanced fruit. There's nothing really I can fault on this. Everything is working for me. There are no off notes. It's tasty. I can vape it at length. That alcohol, even though I don't generally like alcohol vapes, that alcohol note in there is not off-putting to me at all. It actually it lifts the recipe rather than detracting from it. So for this, I give this a tip of the banger. This is a fine recipe. It's probably, as I said, his signature recipe, and he's taken what was initially a very good idea and just made it better. So thanks for that, Matthew. I mix up everything of yours that I have the concentrates for, and I look forward to continuing to mix up whatever you offer in the future. Thank you.
Okay, so one of the recipes that I mixed up from CokeCan, aka Matthew Kocanda, is rootkit.exe. So what it is a apricot RY4, really with like a couple of cream notes, but it's apricot RY4. So how he's built that is he's got 2% FA Armenia, 1.75% TFA brown sugar, 0.75% Flavor West butterscotch ripple, 1% jungle flavors honey peach, 2.25% jungle flavors RY4, 1.5% TFA toasted marshmallow, and 1.25% capped vanilla whipped cream. So what it really is a build on a RY4 with peach notes or apricot notes. I can't say it's peach or apricot because both of those flavors are quite close in terms of taste. What is done well is it's not really often that you see somebody use JF RY4 double, and a lot of times people use TFA over it, but I think RY4 double from JF is the best use here, especially because he's used up something like butterscotch ripple and brown sugar really to bring out those caramel notes. And he mentioned in his notes as well, just in terms of the apricot taste and honey peach taste, he said honey peach was more of an accent to the apricot note. So it's definitely more apricot forward in his vision. So the honey peach at 1% really just brings out the 2% of FA Armenia, FA apricot. And then the toasted marshmallow adds sort of that toastiness to the tobacco. And the vanilla whipped cream brings out more of those vanilla notes that you expect in an RY4. which I find lacking in something like JFRI4 Double. It needs more vanilla. So vanilla whipped cream definitely brings that out. I think what's important to note is if you're a beer drinker, and this is something that I've done various testing on because I've tried a recipe like this before, is something like apricot tobacco, apricot, like anything with like a smoky taste, or apricot peach with caramel is really good with beer. It seems to accent a lot of those notes, and it's something that's nice to vape while drinking beer. Because I often find that it's difficult figuring out what kind of flavor goes with alcohol. Where the rootkit.exe, and I've tried this, works very well with something like an IPA. It tends to bring out a lot of those hops notes that you get from there. Side notes, sorry. So I think what's really good is there's no sweetener in this recipe. So if you're against sweetener, there's not really anything in here, and I don't think it really needs it. You get a lot of those sweeteners coming from brown sugar and RI4 Double that's already inheritingly sweet. I think this is also the time when a lot of people are using toasted marshmallow, because this is a bit of an older recipe, but it is one of the more popular recipes of CokeCan. Even though there's not a lot of ratings, there's only one 5-star rating, which is a shame because this has got a recipe pack from Bull City Flavors. So for me, this is it's a banger. Definitely a full banger for me and a fist bump, because I really enjoy this, and I really enjoy this with a beer. Okay, so the next recipe I mixed up was the Best Damn BBSCBSFY. I don't know why I called it that. It's like something that I would have typed by accident, but I think it stands for Beginner Blending Strawberry Cream Bullshit Pucky. That's exactly it. Okay. So what it is a fairly straightforward strawberry cream with a bit of sugar cookie notes to it. And the way it's done that is 1.25% TFA Bavarian cream, 0.5% FA meringue, 1.5% TFA strawberry, 4.5% TFA strawberry ripe, 1.25% JF strawberry sweet, 2% capped sugar cookie, and 1.5% capped vanilla whipped cream. So right away, it's got vanilla whipped cream, which is still one of my favorite concentrates. So I really like this recipe just based on that. So the creams that I use, something like Bavarian cream with meringue, you'll get quite a sugary sweet like cream from that already. With vanilla whipped cream, just to build that body, I don't think there's a reason for sweetener, and I think that's why he's left it out, because you've already got a lot of that sugariness from FM meringue. At least that's what my palate gets. Capped sugar cookie at 2% is not really going to stand out. It's a lot more of an accent note to everything else that's going on. So I think what the main notes here you're going to get is almost that pink strawberryness. So something like JF strawberry sweet is already a lot of that pink Nesquik, not Nesquik really, but close to Nesquik strawberry, with something like strawberry ripe, which already adds a lot of pinkness to something. This is a very forward strawberry. The cream is really more of like the base of everything, but it's very strawberry top heavy. TFA strawberry sort of adds a bit of that authentic notes, where I find TFA strawberries are very in between a candy strawberry and authentic strawberry, where I still get some of that body of the strawberry, and this is really a good base for these other strawberries to sit on top. It's a fairly straightforward recipe. It's not anything that's done anything innovative, but in terms of just a straightforward strawberry and cream, it's really good. If you wanted something a little heavier on the cream, then you could add something like any ice cream to it, or custard to it even. But what he's done nicely is he sort of left that out just so you can say, look, here's a very straightforward strawberry and cream, and the strawberry is very top heavy, and I've got a bit of mouthfeel from the creams. So in terms of this, I think it's a tip of the banger for me. It's not the best strawberry and cream I've ever tasted, but it's still good. It's still up there with a decent strawberry and cream for someone to vape. But I think he's done a good job building those three strawberries together as a strawberry combo. It's not often that you see somebody using those ones. You often see them jump to just the TFA strawberry and capped sweet strawberry combo. And yeah, he's sort of used JF strawberry sweet just to add more of that pinkness, that candy strawberry to it. Anyway.
Okay, guys, there you have it. We've come to the end of the show, and just a couple of things before we wrap up the show. First, congratulations on some of the ratings for today, Matthew. Thank you very much for all the work that you've put out. We really appreciate it. There's some really good recipes, a big profile of work or body of work. I'll drop that in the chat as well. Guys, if you're not already part of Mixologists South Africa on Facebook, please go look at the description below. There should be a link for the Facebook group, and just go and add yourself there. It'd be nice to have you. You can find Daniel, and you can find Richard, which is the co-host, in there as well. And then I've also got the recipe profiles of all the TFV crews in the description below, so go and check this out. A couple of channels that I just want to shout out, people that we collaborate with: Daytime Frank, Fresho Free 3 for letting us run this show right after his. Thank you very much, dude. Boom, fist bump there for you. DIY Down Under, we're currently having a mix off with DIY Down Under, guys, so please go and add yourself to the DIY Down Under Facebook group as well as Mixologist, so you can see the banter going on between the two teams. The first challenge was a fruit challenge, and we are submitting our recipes tomorrow. The judges for this is Shindo, Fresho 3, and Emily, ML Nikon. So yeah, guys, it's going to be cool. I think a couple of cool recipes is going to come out of this mix, off. So yeah, guys, go and add yourself to those groups, and go and support your team. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for tuning in on the show. It's very nice to have you here, and learning, through mixing up other people's recipes and talking about it. You guys need to enjoy your week, and I'll see you guys next week. Cheers. Bye-bye.